Miriam, my camera is not coming on. I'm struggling with it, but I'll get it to work.
Okay.
And
Miriam
Susan
Galais.
Peacock from Jacksonville too.
Okay, Susan, I got you down. Let's see.
Okay, let's try to get started here. This is great fun. I'm so thrilled to see so many faces. We are a little bit unscripted, and we're not planning to have a rigorous protocol. Right now, we're not planning to mute people, but I think as we go forward, we're going to ask people if they want to speak to raise a hand, and we'll try to respond that way. I thought I would begin by just, again, my name is Vince Pratt. I'm in Charlotte. I'm one of the coordinators here. I am one of 5 people who got together at the Lake Tahoe gathering and agreed to volunteer to be chapter coaches. Now, that doesn't mean that we know everything. It just means that we want to be helpful. And with me on that team is Susan Corwin. You might wave, Susan. She's in Atlanta. Rachel Gonzon in Portlandia. There's Rachel. Wait a minute. David Cook. He's in Hoosiers, and he's the one to blame if anything goes wrong. And David Combs in Oak Pueblo. So that's our group of 5. With us, although not on the screen tonight, is Jeff Stiles, former president of the American Pilgrims. So he is caucusing with us when we have Zoom meetings and helping us to stay on track. So that's my little speech. I would like maybe to give Jean McCulloch the floor for just a moment. Jean, do you want to have some information to share with the group or advice before we go into our discussion?
Well, I don't really have anything very specific. Well, I do have one thing specific. When you all go into your email, it is a Gmail function, and you will receive dire warnings from Google about not setting up security telephone or email for recovery purposes. Do not give in to those dire warnings and enter your phone number. What it will mean is that your fellow coordinators, when they try to go in, they won't be able to do it because they don't have access to your telephone number. That's something happens, I think, mostly for the new chapters when they encounter that. People who've been around for a while know not to do that. It can be overridden, but you have to get a hold of me as webmaster, and we have to coordinate a 10-minute interval when I can kill that function, which will allow you to get in. So again, those are recovery phone numbers, recovery email. Don't give in to Google's dire warnings. And that's really about all I have. If I can think of anything else useful during the discussion, I'll pop in. That's it.
Thank you, Gene. Okay, we'll try to go forward. And again, I'm thrilled to see so many folks here. It's a little bit like a gathering where you can just chat, although it's a little hard for all of us to talk at one time. Again, many of us already know each other, as you can tell, but some of you may be somewhat new to the chapter coordinator role, or even if you're not new, you may not have had a chance to meet many other coordinators. So if I may, let me run down a list of 5 questions and just ask you to raise your hand and wave a little bit. The first question is your chapter a new chapter less than 1 year old? Do we have anybody from new chapters here? Okay, Tahoe. Okay, Del Mar. And Ventura, that's 3. Okay, anybody else? Well, in particular, we'd like to connect you to the broader group and let you make acquaintance with other coordinators who may be in your area, or other coordinators who can respond to any questions you have. So you are part of the focus of why we're doing this. the second, even if you're in an established chapter, have you been a coordinator for less than a year? Okay, Tiffany, Lily, Jolo. Okay, wait, anybody else?
Who's Jolo?
Pat.
There's Pat.
Brian.
Brian.
Okay. So in particular, we'd like, again, we hope to allow you to feel part of this broader group and know.
Who's Jolo?
Well, oh, it's JoJo? I beg your pardon.
Hi.
In New York, okay. You guys, you need a blue ribbon. I mean, the rest of the country, I'm in the South here, and we're struggling with this COVID thing. You guys got it licked, so good for you.
We're all in this together.
Well,
Sorry. We are
okay.
all in this together. Anyway,
okay. So let me ask the next question. Who has been to at least one national gathering? Okay.
Miriam from Jacksonville to 3 of them.
Keep your hands up. So maybe that's half of us. So that's a lot. And those of us who've been know how much fun they are and how the opportunity they provide to learn from others and learn interesting things about the Camino. Again, those of you who haven't been, we hope to cause you to feel more connected. But do you distribute a monthly or quarterly newsletter using MailChimp? Are most folks doing that? A
No.
lot of folks, but not everyone. Let me look at, okay. Well, we'll go on to the next question, but that begs a question in my mind. How are you communicating? But maybe we'll come back to that. So not everyone has a newsletter. So the next question is, are you connected to another chapter? For instance, I have subscribed to the newsletters from Atlanta, Asheville, and Raleigh. Those are nearby chapters where I have friends, and it's great to see what they're doing, but it's also especially useful to see how they're using the communication tool. And so I'm constantly learning from them. So is anybody subscribed to other newsletters?
Yes, I am. Miriam from Jacksonville. I don't have a video capability right now.
Okay. So there's not many folks that are doing that. So that's an opportunity you could take advantage of. So before we go much further, those of you who are not using MailChimp, have you got another tool or another thing you're doing to communicate on a monthly or regular basis with your chapter folks? Yes, Jackie, you'll need to unmute.
We have monthly events, MailChimp, and the reminders, but not a newsletter.
Okay. Okay, Lily, did you wave?
No. I have to sit on it.
Terry.
Terry,
I'm
yeah.
waving. We also have a Facebook group.
Okay, and Donna?
I'm sorry, I'm mute. We use Facebook a lot too, as well as MailChimp. We kind of back up the newsletter information with Facebook.
Okay,
we do the same.
Yeah,
Okay,
we do also. The Facebook, it seems like it's a different demographic that uses Facebook. So everything goes through. We tell them that we are primarily an email-based communication. So everything goes out through MailChimp. But you know, we try to keep the Facebook communication alive. So yeah.
Vince, Terry,
that's similar
that other
to our
Terry
posture.
and Pat wants to talk.
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
Yes, we use MailChimp. We do not do a newsletter, although we should be doing a newsletter, I think. That would be good. But we use MailChimp extensively, and we found it very helpful. We have part of our group that are on Facebook and part of our group that do not use Facebook at all. So we try to reach out to both groups. Also for Zoom calls, we send out formal invitations to our Zoom calls, and we only do that through MailChimp. And
Okay.
so we encourage people through Facebook that if they want to participate in our Zoom calls, that they need to subscribe, and we have an automatic link that we post on Facebook, and they just click the link and it automatically takes them to the subscribe
And
page.
we learned how to do that at National.
We learned how to do that at National.
I forgot though.
We had, Charlotte, we have just recently learned how to do that. We
Did I teach you?
We
Did I
communicate
teach you
primarily,
Tampa Bay?
we communicate primarily using MailChimp. Everything goes through MailChimp. We do have a Facebook group, and it gets a fair amount of traffic. We try to share most of our information also on Facebook with reminders, but we have included in our newsletter a little question asking people to let us know if they do not use Facebook. And we've got maybe a couple of dozen people who've told us they don't use Facebook. So far, that's not been an issue, but it just reminds us that we must keep everything in an email. And if we don't, if we start to put something on Facebook, we need to send an email to those folks.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly our experience as well.
Vince.
Yes, Pat?
No,
My last,
thanks.
okay, someone is asking me and I don't know how to respond. My last name is Jeremoni and I'm from the Silicon Valley chapter. I've been a coordinator less than a year. We use Facebook and MailChimp to no newsletter, just to let people know what our monthly activities are.
Okay, great. I saw a hand from Frank.
Yeah, we are not on MailChimp, as Sharon knows. I'm not competent enough to get there yet, but we do have
Oh,
Facebook.
Frank, you can do this.
We do have Facebook. We recently, at NorCal, Guy is implementing kind of a regional thing. And we're gonna, with Sacramento and Silicon Valley, we're gonna have a web virtual trivia day on St. James Day.
Oh,
So
cool.
I think we got 100 spots and we're pretty well booked up. So we've tried a little regional thing to get together.
Very nice.
That's a very good piece of information. I was going to ask, the next two questions are, what challenges are you facing right now, or what is working very well? So it sounds like you have a suggestion on something that might be working very well if you have 100 people nearly signed up for that.
Well, we got some big chapters. NorCal is big and Sacramento's big. I don't know how big you are in Silicon Valley, but it's a pretty big draw. So that's where we pulled it in from.
Still, doing things with sharing things with multiple chapters is a good, interesting idea. We have thought about that, but haven't done it yet. So does anyone have a particular issue that's challenging them now that they'd like to bring up and ask for comments on? Yes, Frank?
You know that I've been here less than a year. And so my biggest concern is, I think, building a deep bench for future coordinators. And I would be interested in how you do that, where particularly you got multiple coordinators. You know, we've got 2, but I'd like to have 3 or 4, and how you got there, you know, to head the bench. Because some of us are going to retire or get old or something.
Go on, Camino.
Who's got a good answer to
Get
that?
back up.
Linda Schubert.
What we've been working on is that the people who come really regularly that are always helping out, we kind of make a special name tag for them, and they're called, you know, Friends of the Texas Gulf Coast chapter, and they're just treated specially, and I think people love being invited, and we ask, because sometimes our gatherings are so large, they help to meet people and talk to the new people we have. And they're a great team of like 6 to 8 people. They're always flattered to be asked. They love wearing their name tag. And of that group of people, the people who are more interested in getting more involved, you can kind of see who is your future. And I think people love being asked to help out.
So about how many folks are participating in your meetings? It sounds like a large
Well,
group.
Well, we've had pretty big groups, and it's a lot of new people, and there are 3 of us in our chapter that are coordinators. And sometimes at a gathering, we just cannot welcome every new person. So these people that are called Friends of the Texas Gulf Coast chapter are kind of helping us meet people, making them feel welcome. And then they record what the information they got, and then they get it back to us, and it's really been helpful. But then there are also people we're going to look at if one of us were to retire. We know they're engaged. They know they love the Camino. They love to help out. So and we get to know them a little bit better.
Maybe,
We're
maybe
kind
they
of-
should be called hospitaleros and
There you go.
hospitaleras.
There you go.
That's a great piece of information. Our group
And
is not
we-
so
we
large.
would
Gary.
even do like a little dinner with them, you know, like have just a gathering just with that subgroup, just to make them feel welcome and trying to tell them what we're doing.
Can I ask a question?
That's great.
I'm Barb from Portland, and we have a very large active group as well. That sounds like a fabulous idea. We haven't done that yet, but I'm wondering how you, what criteria do you set for who fits into that category of 6 to 8? Because I can imagine upsetting people who didn't get selected and then kind of creating some bad energy.
No, it seems to kind of happen really organically. Like we have one fellow where he really doesn't want to greet people and talk to people, but boy, he will always help set up chairs and tables and set up a room. So like, we love him, you know, so
Yeah.
everyone kind of tells us what they like to do if they want to be more involved.
I'm going to Terry in just a moment. That's the key for us. Our group is much smaller. We have a cluster of coordinators who are basically like your friends of, but we are close friends and we get together a lot. And basically our group sort of came together over a period of several years as we enjoyed seeing each other, and we figured out what people like to do. Different people like to do different things. If you find someone who likes to do something, whether it's greet people or set up chairs or give presentations or whatever, pull that person in and let them do that. We're still looking for the person to lead all the hikes, but Marty, let me go to Terry. She's been Terry.
Look at the messages. There's bunches of questions down there that need to be addressed. So
okay.
Terry.
Okay, let's do Terry and then I'll look at the chat. Thanks.
I was just going to say that our problem has been that well, actually my co-coordinator has just resigned and I have a new co-coordinator, but the old co-coordinator and I, we're each gone like 2 months out of the year on Camino, and we needed somebody else to be there to like sort of take charge. We were never gone at the same time. But our problem was that we would have people say, oh yeah, I'm really interested in helping, but I don't want to be responsible. Yeah. And that's been an issue that we've had, as finding somebody else to step up that will be responsible.
Sometimes people just want to do a one and done deal. Like they just want to commit to one thing one time and then they're done. And that's awesome. So I pretty much ask people what would float their boat. What would they like to, what would be neat for them? Like maybe one guy wants to lead one hike one time, and that's okay. He doesn't want to do all the hikes. He just wants to do one. So that's helped out a lot.
Okay, I'm reading the some of the chat information. You might look down there if you haven't. And where was I? I saw one group said they gave up on MailChimp because nobody could figure it out. I can really sympathize with that. I've heard somebody say it's intuitive, but for me, it was not intuitive at all. And I also saw that I think Sharon offered to help that person. She is an expert. So did I get that right? Thank you so much, Sharon. If you can.
Absolutely.
That's, if you.
Who did I offer that to?
It's down in the chat somewhere.
Okay. All right. I wanted to tell, Tampa Bay. Okay.
I just wanted to say, I just been reading through the chats and I see Harry, who's our good friend from Lake Tahoe. Harry, I see that you're having some issues with MailChimp. We can help you with that because we've had pretty good success. So after this session, we should connect again, and I think we might be able to help you a little bit.
Okay.
Great. That's really what we want this meeting to do is get connections between people, because my problem with MailChimp is I didn't know what it could do. You have to understand what's possible in order to then figure out how to do that.
Right.
And there are some big advantages to MailChimp. One of them is when you send a message out, it'll keep track of who opens it and who doesn't, so you know who's reading.
And you don't have to remove people from your subscriber list.
Right, they remove themselves.
They remove themselves. I actually agreed to redo the videos, and I looked at the videos and I didn't see anything wrong with them. I mean, we all change our clothes. I mean, the website that they present is a little different than Yosmar's videos from 3 or 4 years ago, but they're still good. The functionality hasn't changed. But I'm here for you guys. You got a question, you got a problem, maybe we can work up some what we used to call them SMEs, subject matter experts, amongst our groups, and when I was in the office, when I was working. But yeah, we can, and I don't, I love it. I would be more than happy to help people. Frank, I sat with, you can vouch for me, Frank.
Willing to help. I want to do an administrative thing. I asked Bill Arts at the coordinators workshop that we had, whether he could publish all the emails so we could get in touch with each other of the coordinators that were there. And I don't have it. Like I may have Sharon's, but I don't have much of anybody else's emails.
Oh, wait, you're asking for email addresses?
Yeah, that's all I wanted.
Well,
how we could keep connected.
You can just email me at the old Pueblo. You can find the email address on the website. But yeah, and then we'll go personal. We don't have to, but any of the new people.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that that's the way to start, is by communicating to the chapter email address. It may seem cumbersome, but those addresses are all available at the national website. And if you connect to the chapter, then if you need to have an offline conversation directly with email, you could do that. I don't know if anybody has shared personal email addresses. I don't mind mine being shared, but that was one of the advantages to MailChimp. Before we used MailChimp, we used Gmail. We would sometimes forget and send the distribution out, and everybody's email got copied to everybody else, and folks didn't like that. So they really like the confidentiality of MailChimp.
I might make a suggestion here. MailChimp is indeed complicated. I'm the one in our chapter who sends out our announcements. What I do is, way back, I created the initial email a MailChimp form that we sent out. Every time I have to send out something new, I replicate it. And I change and I edit the events that I have stacked up in the different so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So that's one technique.
That's true, Gene. Gene, we do that, but we also sometimes we forget to edit the entire content of the working screen, and we may get the new title for the event, but then the subtitle, and I forget where it is in MailChimp, and the message comes through the July newsletter, and the subtitle is the April event. And
well, you're telling me that you're not sending a test email and looking at it first?
I always send a test.
Naughty, naughty, naughty.
I always send a test.
That's not MailChimp's fault. That's your fault for not being thorough.
We sometimes send so many tests, we have to they won't let us in. We have to replicate and create a new message. Okay, so, but we still miss stuff. Okay, Susan.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I was going to just jump in and say that I agree with Sharon about, I think Yosmar's videos are fabulous. And yes, and so I know that some of the navigation has changed, and maybe it would be good to, and first of all, I do all the MailChimp stuff in our group. I'm pretty fluent in it. And Sharon, I'd be glad to, I know you volunteered to, anybody needs help, contact you. Anybody needs help, you can also contact me. So you've got a couple of resources to go to. But I think, yeah, some of the terminology has changed and some things have moved around. And I think Vince is trying to.
So go ahead. I would like to be next. Well, and let me
Okay, but it would be a pretty simple matter to put together something that says, okay, in the video, it talks about, what was the old term? It's audiences now, and there was another term before.
See, Susan, that, for Sharon and Susan and any of us who may be familiar with MailChimp, oh, this is familiar. Well, it's the same. It does the same things. But if you're new,
right,
and I'm opening up MailChimp and it's talking about audiences and the vid and the
oh yeah, I understand
different
that.
term in there. I am totally lost. I don't know what's going on. So if you're brand new, you really.
Yeah. And I'm not saying necessarily that the videos don't need to be redone, but I guess what I am saying is that the content of the videos is really good and, does give people a good base. And so, and I think it's awesome that Sharon's going to redo videos.
Well, no, I said that, but on the other hand, I haven't found anybody to support me in answering my questions about this because it's not simple. Clearly, Yosmar's videos were edited.
Okay, so it's the technical part of doing the video.
No, I can't edit video. I can record a video, but I don't know, I don't know what the problem is. Because I can't be as good as she is. I can't be as thorough as she was. I mean,
has anybody asked Yosmar to revise her videos?
I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have. She has other things to do. It's on to us.
Let's get Terry.
And my other point is that MailChimp will continue to change their clothes. They will continue to change their homepage and the navigation and all that stuff. That's never going to end. I think what we need to have amongst the chapters, we need to have SMEs that people can come to teach them. I feel like I made a good difference at the gathering.
You did.
I consulted with people every morning. And we sat down for a couple of hours every morning and walked through it. I did a presentation there. And we have a venue now. I think it would be more productive if we needed to, we basically dedicated one of these sessions to MailChimp.
Yeah, I want to get
that's my thought.
I want to get to Terry, but I think that's a very good idea. We could do one of these sessions specifically on MailChimp. And I'm sorry, Martha, on MailChimp, and Sharon, you could share your screen and show people how things work. Let me get to Terry and then I'll come to Martha. Terry?
As far as MailChimp goes, whenever I have a problem with something, I just Google what my problem is and then I put MailChimp and I always get some sort of tutorial from MailChimp on how to do it. Or sometimes it's from somebody else that's had the same problem. I just Google it.
Well, you're better than me. Does Martha need to have something to say over there?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to how you were trying to build up getting your chapter co-chairs. We had someone who left a couple years ago, so I was left alone, and I said, we're going to have to disband unless we get somebody else. And I said, I'm very open to dividing up the tasks. And we have one person who's really into doing the hikes and one person who's really into doing the newsletter. And I'm just now kind of the continuity person, and I bring the resource. We have a resource library that I bring to everything. So if you can figure out how to divide up the work, I think people are more willing to do it if they know they're just doing a part of it. And we're able to just, we don't even live 30 miles from each other. So we just do our little Zoom meetings and we get ourselves organized for about 6 months at a time. And then we just touch bases with each other. And it's been really, really good to split it up that way. And another thing is you can do a Google form, and I guess it's kind of like a survey, but you can put in all kinds of little things. You know, I'd like to be a greeter. I'd like to help set up. I'd like to clean up. I'd like to lead a coffee. I'll do a Zoom. You know, I'll co-lead a hike or something like that, and you can get a base that way of people that you can contact. And I think people are more willing to do it if you have it real specific what it is you want them to do. Show up 15 minutes before each meeting or something like that. But Google Forms is a really simple way to do that, and you can real quickly export it into a spreadsheet and get the information that you need from folks. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, we're going to go over to Susan in Atlanta, but you just mentioned Google Forms. I don't know anything about Google Forms, but that's another thing we may need to learn. I have noticed from the Raleigh newsletter that you guys do some really neat things. Because if you sign up, you automatically get a welcome newsletter and a link to all your past chapter newsletters. It's great. I haven't learned how to do that. Okay, Susan.
No, I was just going to say that I think we do our chapter pretty similar to yours in that we have 3 coordinators. One of them is the hike master. One of them is basically the newsletter email person. That's actually me. And then we have another coordinator he's like special events, because we do hikes every month and then we do quarterly events. And so that's how we've divided up the tasks, which has worked really well. But we also at times have trouble getting, when a coordinator wants to roll off, getting someone to replace them. And so, yeah, I'm really interested in hearing, people's suggestions on how you build that bench. We do have people that volunteer for stuff, but yeah, and I don't remember who said it earlier. There's people that just go, I don't want to have the responsibility. I don't want to be, locked into this. I'm more than happy to help you out for this particular thing.
I don't know the answer, but we've been fortunate. I'm afraid, I don't know if I should admit it or not, but we have 5 coordinators in Charlotte. 5.
Don't admit it.
And we had to go to the mat to get permission to add the 5th one. Anyway, so you definitely need more coordinators. It's really helpful to share the load. What worked for us was finding people who were interested and bringing them in to do what they like to do, and not trying to say, we need somebody who has to do this. Are you willing to do this? Sometimes that works, but that's not the way it worked for us. So, okay.
Hey, Vince, one more question.
Yeah.
If we find a couple people that we could call something like coordinators in training, could you allow them to participate in these meetings? Would that be valuable, or are you prohibited from doing that?
I don't know of any prohibition. We have a very large group tonight. I imagine, I'm hopeful we'll continue to do these meetings perhaps monthly. And we may not have this many people every time, but nobody has told me we can't let others join. And the way you would do that would be for you to share that link. We'd rather not have that link in a public place like on a Facebook page, but I don't think there's any reason you couldn't share that link with someone else in your group that you'd like to have them join.
Okay.
Hey,
thanks.
Vince, Carrie's trying to raise, she's been raising her hand for a while.
I'm
Carrie?
sorry, I can't see everybody on the.
I know, and that's
screen.
why I'm helping you.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
thank
so
you,
Terry,
Martha. I appreciate that. It's been a while.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, I just wanted to mention Google Forms is an amazing tool, and the annual gathering back in North Carolina that was last, a year ago, they videotaped that. And if you go out to the coordinators page and just search on Google Forms, there's a video there that will step you right through how to put together a Google form. And I wasn't at the annual gathering that year, but I was following along online and made my first ever Google form from that live presentation. And then a couple months later, forgot how to do it. And I just went to our coordinators page on Facebook and put in Google Forms and found the link to the video. And it stepped me right through again, how to do that Google form, which we use now all the time for everything. Throughout the year, I'll put together a Google form for people who might like to lead a training hike. Because as I say, everybody has that training hike that they did before they did their first Camino, that they know like the back of their hand because they did it so many times as they were preparing. Well, why not bring part of our group on that training hike? And it lets us get into different parts of our geographical area that Sacramento falls to. And so we get to see all different parts of the Sacramento region led by different people. And they submit their request that they want to do that through a Google form that goes to an Excel spreadsheet. And then I coordinate those. So it's people that are interested in leading a hike. So that's sometimes part of the problem, and that resolves that. And then we just coordinate a time, and then whoever wants to attend that hike can show up. Now, right now with COVID, it's a little bit different, but do check out that resource.
Vince, Jeffrey Davies has been trying to also get into.
Okay, let me ask Carrie. I'm sorry, I'm going to stick with Carrie just a minute. I've got a short question for you, and then I want to pat you on the back. So what do you do with these Google Forms? Do you put them in MailChimp? Do you put them in email or both?
We don't use MailChimp. We use something called MailPoet, and that's our what we use for email. But we also have a website. We have a Sacramento Pilgrims website, and we have a very active Sacramento Pilgrims Facebook page.
Okay.
So we use those options.
You guys are very technically astute. I think I saw a note from Sharon the other day asking for Camino presentations. And I remember back 3 or 4 years when Charlotte was trying to put together our first Camino presentation, Carrie shared her presentations, Camino 101 and 201. And we took a lot of content from what she had put together and used that as we assembled ours. So she's very helpful. We'll try to learn how to do Google Forms. Okay, Marty, who is
Jeffrey Davies. Unmute, Jeffrey. Unmute. Yeah, there you go. Good.
Oh, I can put my arm down at last. I might sound a little bit like a Luddite here, but in SoCal, we grew to about 1,300 members, and we were having probably 4+ events a month, and we were finding the technology, well, firstly, Kurt Butley, who's on here, and I are very good IT guys. So we've built the most magnificent system to manage this that you could. Then we came to the realization that this wasn't the way we won what we wanted to do in our lives. We were paid to do this before. And secondly, it takes away from the interaction with people. So the SoCal chapter, which will soon disappear off the map, has been broken into 4 smaller chapters with an emphasis on the value of simplicity. In other words, you don't have to be a technical giant to be a coordinator. That's not the skill set we're looking for. What we were looking for is the ability to relate to people and the ability to communicate with people effectively. And by breaking up apart from making it simpler, we also made it so that our coordinators can spend more time with the people who come to walks. When you have a walk where 80 people turn up, as a coordinator, all you're doing is herding cattle. And even at 36 to 40, we felt our wards were too large. So we have broken into a regional model where we're going to have one MailChimp for the whole region, but each, we have 4 chapters within that, and they will do their own tracking of people who RSVP, whether it's by phone or by Survey Monkey. And basically, I'll be providing the technical support for the entire region at this point.
Great.
So we're trying to pursue the value of simplicity.
Where are you from?
Southern California.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have Ventura chapter, but we've got 2 coordinators on from there. We'll shortly be announcing the 2 coordinators for Orange County after the board meeting. And we have 2 coordinators for both Los Angeles and coordinators.
Inland Empire. I wanted to say something earlier about a question earlier about, you know, Dave and I.
We're like,
finish.
Jeffrey, go ahead and finish, and then Sharon next.
Yeah, that's basically where we're going, and as I say, simplicity and getting the coordinators with the people so that they have real good quality time with them. So we've gone from 4 to 8, and we had no problems finding the people to step up and do that. Marla is one of the people who stepped up. She used to be a coordinator, and now we've roped her back in again.
Okay. Sharon, were you next?
So Martha was talking earlier about, you know, finding time to go on Camino. One of the things that Dave and I did from the very beginning was that we built a calendar, and essentially for us, we have a very busy fall and winter season, and our summer is pretty much gone. Most of anybody that can leaves the desert in the summer. So we just basically take a break. And I think that when you're thinking as coordinators, one of the things you have to do is you have to leave time for yourself. You've got to leave time for your breaks. We had regular, our meetings and our events happen on particular days of the month, so you can plan them out. I'm trying to compress them this coming year so that the second and third weekends of the month are Camino. The rest of the month is available to be out of town. So I think that the coordinators have to make sure that they're cared for. And we've told people, sorry, we're not going to be around because we're on Camino. You know, get over it. This is what we do, right? You know, the thing with MailChimp is that you can schedule in advance things to go out. You can, you know, you get a little bit of Wi-Fi and you can approve people coming onto the Facebook. And if you've got the automated email message going out to them, they're welcomed. So anyway, I think our number one responsibility as coordinators is to make sure that we are in a position mentally and physically to be able to continue until we're ready to not. Building on new people, we have a brand new coordinator right there. Wave, Lily.
Okay, wonderful.
And I just recruited a person who is not interested in coordinating, but he has. I had a meeting with him about taking up a particular responsibility that I thought a new responsibility that I thought he would be really good at, and he's quite excited about it. And I plan on. I've got a couple of other regulars that I'm going to do that Volunteer Management 101 is give them something specific to do. You know, the more specific the responsibility, the more likely you are to be able to make the sale.
Sharon, what does Volunteer 101 mean? What does that mean?
It just means, you know, okay, so we're all volunteers, right? But when you're managing volunteers, when you're recruiting volunteers, when you're trying to get them to pick up responsibilities, you have to start small. You've got to start discreetly. You've got to start, the more discreet the responsibility you're asking them to take on, the more likely you are to be able to get them to agree. Because you can sell them, you know, you can negotiate better. Lily was an all in, you know, she's like, oh yeah, you know, she was like me, I'm in. But these other people that I'm thinking about recruiting, I have specific things in mind that I would like them to take the lead on. And that's what I meant by 101, Volunteer 101.
Okay, that's great information. A couple of things that I thought about as you were speaking. One is you don't have to have events or a lot of activity every single month. We don't shut down in the summer, but we do slow down because several of us are often gone for a couple of months. I'm usually out July and August, and some people travel later in the fall, some people earlier. We tend to go quiet in November and December. But the other thing that came to mind is you're looking for a volunteer or a new coordinator. Several of ours have been folks who have walked the Camino and came back with a really powerful experience. And they just had that feeling they wanted to stay connected and they wanted to help others learn about the Camino. And that drew them into our coordinator team. Yes, David.
I just need to give a shout out to my co-coordinator here, Brian. He's on the other screen. I can't see him, but I know he's out there. And he just came forward and just is doing a great job of coming up with ideas. Plus, we have another member who has taken over the Facebook deal. I would send out these MailChimp notices and totally forget about the people that are looking at our Facebook page. So she's doing a great job and she's interested in doing that. So, you know, hooray for Debbie. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, great. We try to replicate everything on Facebook, and we probably have some people who are only on Facebook and not MailChimp. And we're actually trying to get them signed up for MailChimp. Since we've learned how to put a sign-up form out there, we're encouraging people to connect to our email notices. Okay, has anybody else been waiting to speak? Don Walton.
Hi.
Hi, Western North Carolina.
Yeah, yay. Something I haven't heard here tonight that we did not too long ago that you might tuck in your mind is we had a coordinator, and a lot of you probably know her, but she was Rebecca, and she was very good. And we didn't want to lose her. She decided she didn't want to do the coordinator position anymore. So eventually what we did is we made her an emeritus coordinator, and we list her name on everything as an emeritus, and she is very helpful to us too. And I think she enjoys that. So that's just a little tiny thing that you could tuck in your pocket.
Ah, okay, okay. We've mentioned the Facebook group occasionally, and I don't know if everyone here utilizes Facebook, but there is a Facebook group specifically for coordinators. So we now have this Zoom forum we can communicate in, but you can also drop a question into the Facebook group. If you have a question that you'd like somebody to contact you about, you may find that. I'm just now looking at the chat, and
yeah, Terry had a question about being a new chapter.
Right, is there an orientation program for new coordinators? Not specifically or in much detail. That probably is a role that the 5 of us chapter coaches would hope to fill, maybe informally, or maybe through this forum, or maybe others on Facebook. Again, what we hope to do here is connect everyone to other coordinators, but specifically anyone who's new to someone who's got answers to what's on their mind, or someone who may be in the same region. I really like being connected to other folks in our region. So, and if you can get to an annual gathering, that can be a challenge. It takes time, up most of a week, and you include the travel. It takes many hundreds of dollars to buy a plane ticket and pay for your registration. So that can be a challenge. But if you can get to the gathering, it's a great time to learn. Is my, okay. And unfortunately, we're not going to have a gathering this year. I hope it'll return in 2022. I said next year. Okay, I'll come to Susan in a moment. Let's see, Tampa Bay, you want to speak up? And then I'll try to catch Susan in Atlanta.
Just following up with you. So the gathering in Asheville in 2021 is not going to happen, is that correct?
That's correct. And I saw that specifically stated in the La Concha newsletter that this year is canceled and they're not planning to do that event anywhere. And I presume they'll wait to see what happens with the virus and COVID and figure out whether they can reconvene somewhere, or I would hope in Asheville, but for now it's suspended. There's no meeting planned for next year.
There's a regional gathering that's being planned at Notre Dame, Indiana, on the campus of St. Mary's College.
Okay.
So it's tentatively planned for the St. James Day weekend, basically. So you'll be hearing more about it. That's in La Concha also.
It's going to be, it's the finalized decision's going to be sometime December, January, right, David? Yeah, David and I are both on the team working on that. Yeah, so that's all, national.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but I hear I'm in charge of the wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
David, you are in charge of the wine.
Tampa Bay.
Just to follow up, with our chapter, we have been very active. We've been doing 2 or 3 activities a month. We've had great turnouts and we had a lot of enthusiasm, and then we got hit with COVID. Everything just sort of went quiet and we had to cancel things. We didn't quite know what to do. And I would be, and we're now focusing, how do we re-energize enthusiasm within our chapter? And this is a really important thing for us. And it's probably the thing that is just sort of right on the front of our minds. How do we, what are people doing to get people regenerate enthusiasm within their chapters? And because we're a little bit cautious about doing walks.
Number 7.
Let me restate that question because it is on our mind, and I'll tell you why it's come to our mind. And then I think Susan and maybe someone else had a hand up.
Hey, Vince, Vince, you need to call on Donna from Southeast Virginia. She's been trying to get in there.
Okay, let's get her right now. Donna, I'm sorry, you probably were on a different screen and I'm not following.
No, I'm here. Well, just 2 things. Well, I just had a small thing, but now I'll jump on what Tampa Bay just talked about. So the first thing I wanted to say was what, Don, you talked about having coordinator emeritus, which we have found to be so successful up here because we also include Williamsburg. So if you all know, we have so many of the original APOC leadership who's in Williamsburg. And these folks, and we love them, they don't want to be in a coordinated position, but they want to be engaged. So we have folks who are in a coordinator emeritus where you keep them informed, they're part of the decision making, but they are emeritus, and it's really wonderful to have the Williamsburg people with us. And so we do that, and it's very successful. The other thing with regard to Tampa Bay, and we have that same problem, is we got a lot of folks turning out at our meetings prior to COVID. Many of the people who were turning out were, interested in going on their first Camino, and what kind of information can we give them? And now it's fallen off off their radar, and getting people interested and back and keeping them engaged. We do Zoom coffees, we do Zoom meetings, but that's about it. So it is a challenge.
Let me describe our experience with that, and it's similar. Our numbers may not be as large as yours, but we were meeting regularly for coffee and having monthly meetings, and our annual cycle is we do presentations at REI in January, February to reach the community. That brings in a lot of new people who are interested in the Camino. So we have a lot of new folks to share with and engage with. And there's a lot of excited conversation about planning your trips and who's going when and where. And all of that shut down in March. Well, we came back from the gathering and jumped right on Zoom and had a lot of continuity from Zoom and excitement and a lot of success staying connected. But that's starting to wear out. And part of it is just what I think one of you said. The folks who are planning Caminos can't go. So it's just on their back burner and they're going on with their life. So I'm not sure there's anything in particular we can do to get them back, but I think we've decided in Charlotte that we need to be getting out, and we definitely want to be safe about it. Most of us are over 60, and some of us are well beyond 70. So we are beginning to plan some outdoor hikes, not super ambitious, but within an hour of Charlotte. Everybody drives separately, everybody bring a mask, maybe bring a picnic lunch, we can sit around afterward. So that will hopefully be interesting. And I don't know if it'll bring back the people who are no longer planning a Camino, but it'll get us maybe out of the Zoom rut. If your chapter has not been doing Zoom, it probably would be a temporary boost, but it won't last indefinitely. We've also, our habit was to do an in-person Zoom, an in-coffee Thursday every Thursday morning. We got that idea from Western North Carolina, Asheville. We've been doing that by Zoom and it's wearing a little thin. So we're going to maybe alternatively have a Thursday morning coffee at a coffee shop. We do not expect to go inside. We've got some coffee shops that have little outdoor parks nearby. We've done this once and it worked well. We didn't have 20 people, we had half a dozen, and we sat around outside under the shade tree, drinking our coffee in chairs, sitting 6 feet apart. So we're gonna try some outdoor events, but would really like to hear from anybody else who's got ideas or anybody else who has figured how to keep your chapter active and engaged through this time that's probably gonna extend another 12 months. I'm looking for a hand.
Sharon.
Donna. And then, I'm sorry, Susan.
We are, we've had, normally in the summers, we do hikes up on the mountain, but we've had you guys are all frozen. I'm out of here. Here we go. Now we're loosening up. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. No?
Yes.
Nobody? Yes. We've had a wildfire up in our hiking area for the summertime. And that's been shut down. That's likely to stay shut down until November. So even when we occasionally did hikes in the summer, that venue's gone. The weather has lightened up a little bit. I think you might have heard Dave and Lily and I talking about the rain. So we're coming out of the deep part of the summer. We are going to I have a plan.
Sharon just froze up.
In town, we don't call them training hikes anymore.
Vince, Susan Peacock is trying to get in, and Susan from Atlanta.
Was somebody in the waiting room or something?
No, they're raising their hand. The two Susans, Susan Corwin and Susan Peacock.
Yeah, Vince,
Okay.
you were going to come to me quite a while ago.
Go ahead, Susan Corwin, Atlanta.
Okay.
I'm
because
trying to.
I was going to go back and address Terry from Delmarva, who's in a new chapter and was asking about some kind of orientation program. And Vince, you mentioned, well, that might be something that the chapter coaches, that we would be a resource for her. What I was going to say is ask Terry if she'd be willing to be kind of the guinea pig for us figuring out what kind of orientation type program would work for a new chapter.
And what I'm gathering from this is there's a big difference between chapters. So as a guinea pig, I don't know if I'm a good one because we're so small that we're getting, we'll be a year in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We just do regular emails. So I don't like the events you're talking about. We only get 10 people to a hike at that. So I think Dawn is offering, my neighbor here.
Okay.
Which I think is a great idea, the Mid-Atlantic, and I'm actually on their mailing list.
Yeah.
So
I guess what I'd be interested in hearing, and maybe I can, if you wouldn't mind if I communicated with you, sent you an email to your chapter from our Atlanta chapter and see what kinds of things you think a new chapter needs to know.
Yeah, and that'd be great. We're about to lose.
That's kind of what I was thinking about as far as being a guinea pig, that you're one of the most recent chapters and you'd be a great resource for us to figure out how we can help people more.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thanks.
Thanks. That's all.
Great. Okay. Has anybody else been trying to get in? That we've overlooked?
Vince, Susan Peacock.
Susan Peacock, go ahead.
Hey, you were asking about events we were doing. Well, we're in Florida, and in the summertime we kind of gear down because of the heat. Because a lot of times we've had people almost pass out on hikes and stuff. And so for the past couple of years, we've been doing wine tasting, Spanish wine tasting, and it's been super successful. We have to limit the number of people.
Passed out.
Yeah. Yeah, in the heat. We've had problems with people before, but anyway, on hikes. But anyway, the wine tasting's been super successful. We usually do it in July, but of course we're not getting together this year. So we're working on a virtual Camino wine tasting where we're going to do it over a number of weeks and start in St. Jean and go through the regions of wine along the Camino and tell people if they, come up with some wines they can buy at Total Wine or at their easy ones to get for them that might come from those regions. And we're going to try doing a Zoom wine tasting. So and we'll be able to share screens and show them the maps and because our wine tastings have been so successful in the past.
Okay.
It's an idea.
Vince, Guy is trying to get in from Northern California. Guy.
Hi there, everyone. Yeah, Guy from the Northern California, just kind of centered on San Francisco and the Bay Area. Yeah, just in some ideas, I was just going to toss them out if there's any resonance with you. When we've had to, like everyone else, shift to online, it was kind of amazing. I think me and my co-coordinator, Lori Ferris, remarked of how it seems like we're busier now coordinating all the Zoom calls and pivoting, so to speak, than before the pandemic started. But some of the things that we've done, we converted our monthly walks to just a monthly check-in. So people knew about it. It was a walk that we always had just on the calendar the first Saturday of every month in Oakland, California. And that just has turned into a check-in online. We usually have a question of the session that kind of gets the conversation started. For example, you know, what was your calling to the Camino? Or was there someone, you know, that you met along the way that really impressed you? Outside of that, we've also done a book club. So we took a book, Karen Kaiser's The Inner Pilgrimage, and it's divided into different chapters. And we had the participants kind of read through a section of them, and then we went through them over 4 sessions and kind of just shared our thoughts about each of the sort of lessons or teachings that come out of that book. And that was, that appealed to the people that are kind of readers, more on the, you know, maybe spiritual end of things, and thinking of pilgrimage in that way. Another thing that we did is we did a Camino Storytime Hour. So in the same way that we know when we get together and we talk about, you know, what we did on the Camino, and it's, you know, it's our conversation throughout our hikes, we just gave the opportunity for people to volunteer and spend an hour. We divided into 2, featuring 2 volunteers to talk about an aspect of the Camino that through sharing photos. So we're, you know, I think you might be familiar with, you know, the 10 by 10 concept. It was a kind of play on that. So people would pick out, you know, photos that they'd like to share. And for some people, it was one volunteer walked with her 2 school-age boys. And so it was a focus on what that experience is like. Another one was about favorite foods and restaurants over a couple of trips to the Frances. And so it was a little bit varied. So that kind of gave us a way to keep people engaged. And we also turned a lot of our Camino 101s over online. So we've had a few sessions of those to get people together. So it's been, it's actually been quite busy. I do know that I think we see, you know, hearing about the Zoom fatigue and all of that. So it is, like some of you have expressed, kind of, you know, really at that forefront is how do we kind of sustain this? You know, people are itching for the hikes, but at least out here with our chapter, me and Lori are pretty much erring on the super side of caution before bringing people back together. And, you know, we've kind of made that, you know, as we've been communicating with people, for just a variety of reasons, as you might guess. But, you know, one of them is we cover a big region here. So we do grab people from different areas and trying to, you know, by that spirit of, you know, kind of keeping it local. So it's been some factoring into us kind of sticking with at least, you know, with online events for, you know, at least a couple more months.
Okay, I want to get to David Combs, but let me ask you, Guy, one question. Did you say you're doing Camino 101 online now?
Yeah, it actually turned out a lot easier in many ways because it was always a challenge to get a spot in a local library or set things up with REI. And, you know, particularly here in the Bay Area with traffic and getting to different areas, at least traffic at the time, you know, transitioning to online, you know, it was a lot easier for people, you know, from wherever they are to participate in that way.
Did you do it on Zoom?
We did it on Zoom.
We're in the process of building it for online.
Okay,
I just talked to REI today.
Let me get to David Combs, and I'd really like to hear about that because we haven't done anything, but we're realizing that we may not be able to have in-person 101s next spring, but maybe we should try to do it virtually. Okay, Dave, finally, David Combs.
Yay, David!
I'm just going to talk about you. What we've always done as a chapter is we've always had a potluck for St. James Feast Day. We've had a holiday potluck. Well, St. James Feast is this weekend, and we're doing it online. We're doing it with Zoom, and someone mentioned earlier doing a wine tasting by Zoom. And that's fundamentally what we're going to do. We're going to meet for up to as long as 3 hours, and we're going to be at our own residences. We're going to have our own wine, our own foods, and we're going to sit and enjoy that and talk and share things and have the same experience, hopefully, that we would have gathering together, but doing it as a group by Zoom But I will say this, we don't overuse Zoom. We try to minimize it because fundamentally a lot of the age bracket of a lot of our attendees. But for the most part, you know, this is going to be, I think, our first jump into this long of a session. And hopefully it's going to be great and nobody falls out of their chair. And if they do, we won't care. But so we're looking forward to it. And I think that's going to be fun. I think Guy's ideas are great. I think I liked a lot of what I heard. And before, you know, I finish, I just want to say to you and David, Vince, this is going to be, I think, something for the future for the chapter coaches to continue to utilize as a way to garner continuity and consistency. Great concept.
Thank you. Well, what we hope to do is try to collect some of the information that's been shared tonight. And the text chat is one place where we can capture some of it.
Dave, this is
we'll be
Chris
cognizant of Zoom fatigue too.
Yeah.
This is Chris Petty from Colorado.
Yes.
And we are having a St. James picnic this weekend on Saturday, but it will be a socially distanced St. James picnic. We already have a site at a park that's been reserved for some time, and normally we have a potluck and people come and share and we do a shell ceremony, but this time it's bring your own everything. So that means people bring their own chairs or blankets to sit on, bring their own food and drink to eat. There'll be no sharing. We'll sit 6 feet apart, but we'll still gather and we'll see each other in person. The other things we've done, we've had a book club, but it's the book club is everybody come and discuss a Camino book that you liked. And we had probably about 15 people on that. And that was a nice sharing because that way you got to learn about other Camino books and hear a little bit about them. We've also had Zoom meetings where we sent out a link of a film to watch on YouTube. Simon Reeves has done a series on pilgrimages on BBC. And so it's on YouTube, and there's 3 different programs that he did, and we sent that out, and then we had a discussion about that afterwards as well too, and that's worked out well. And then Gene, you want to talk about the Tertulias?
Yeah, I actually sent a chat remark about that. We also did a film club on the 25-minute film called Something Grand. So those were really good. I might mention we have 2 physical events scheduled right now. One is the potluck that Christine just mentioned. We have 3 hikes that we are offering in one of the state parks. They will be limited to 10 people each, which is the rules here in Colorado for gatherings. I must say at this point, the reception, the interest in these 2 events is underwhelming. So we'll have some more announcements about it. I don't know whether people are perhaps rightly simply afraid to get involved in physical events, but we're going to give it a shot. And again, following the rules here in Colorado, I will say we have a governor who has been doing this right. So we're going to follow those regulations.
Excuse me, Gene, what is Something Grand? What does that mean?
It's the name of a film that lasts about 25 minutes. It's absolutely one of the better Camino films, I think.
Okay, Sharon, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to say that we, I was kind of with our St. James Day celebration Saturday, and we're doing. You know, I'm hoping that it's going to be better. I was really taken aback by normally last year, we would have had twice as many people for an in-person potluck, okay? This year, we've had some late ads, but it's underwhelming. just overwhelmingly an underwhelming response to what's going on. I think that, and I'm not sure why. I think some of our older pilgrims may be retiring from Camino. I mean, we've all lost a lot of things, but I'm working on a little bit of a marketing campaign to try to reach out to new people. We've never really, as a chapter, in my relationship with it, we haven't done that. We've just kind of organically grown by people finding out about us. But so I like the Camino 101, we have that for our members, but I'm trying to get it on the REI's list of events as a Zoom meeting. I want to bring in, I think that it's not going to be, Dave and I've had long discussions about this. I think that the bucket list pilgrim is going to be gone. I think COVID's getting rid of that. I think there's a lot of people that think they know about Camino, but they don't know about Camino next year. We're in a wonderful situation because we have the information resources, we've got the connections, we've got all of the information on what, or better information than most people on what the Camino is going to be like if you try to walk it next year, or the near-term Caminos. So anyway, I'm going to be focusing on that. We're starting up our walks again in mid-September. I'm not comfortable with, it would be nice if I could hide my trailhead names, but I can't do that. When I tell people the name of something, they're there. They don't need to know anything else. I mean, we're a very walky, hikey sort of group of people. But I don't have any venues that I feel comfortable even taking a very few, just 10 people, because the trails are narrow. They're mountain trails. I want wider paths. So I was thinking about maybe doing an urban walk through the university. You know, I mean, we could do that in the early fall before other things open up and get cooler. I'm thinking about ways of getting people together, because I think that's our best resource. I mean, we all learned a lot about walking by walking, and I think that the sharing that happens when people walk as a community is really powerful, and I think it's the strongest thing that we can have. So I'm not a big fan of having meetings, and I want to read a book. I don't want to talk about a book. Just saying. So maybe one of you other old Puebloites want to, you know, I'll be happy to. We'll get that, but I don't like book clubs.
Okay.
But so if you're not going to have any unless somebody else leads it.
I see Jean down there. Let me, Sharon, are you already talking with REI about?
Yes, I talked with him today.
So
yes.
Are they ready?
I had a meeting with the manager this morning, and I said, I want to do a Camino 101 on Zoom, via Zoom. My husband and I have a paid subscription to Zoom.
Right.
We use it for our volunteer stuff. So I said, I want to, and she went, well, that's a great idea. I went, okay. So anyway, I think that they have shut down all events and classes as of September 1.
Right.
Until September 1. But she has my information, and I'm going to be following up with her. I think that that's a great venue, a recruiting venue, and there's no and if we're doing the Zoom meeting and doing the presentation on Zoom, and we're inviting the REI people, there's no reason that our new pilgrims, there's no reason to segregate it between the two groups.
Great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, doing the 101 at REI is one of the important ways we get new people involved and connect with them early in the year. And again, we're realizing that it may not be possible to have the physical meeting. So we're thinking about doing what you're doing. We haven't taken that step. So apparently REI has not thought about it yet, but they're open to the idea. So I'll want to keep in touch with you on that. I think,
You know, our REI's room is relatively small. And so
Yeah.
we've kind of moved away from using them. There's a local retailer that we've been using the last couple of years that has a larger room. But yeah, so she was saying that they were actually thinking about moving more to online meetings and events before COVID. So anyway, I think we just all need to jump on our local REIs. I think it's a great way to recruit, a great way to get the information out.
Okay. Yeah, our local, the person we usually talk to is on unpaid leave right now, but she'll be back in a month or so. Anyway, great. I think Jean was ready for some content.
I've actually put this out on the chat, but somebody asked about the film, Something Grand. There's a resource on the website. There is a film and video page if anybody wants to, find some suggestions for that. Also on the website, there is a page which is what you need to know about COVID-19. And that's something I update, well, for the last 3 months, I've been updating it every, maybe even twice a week. It focuses on the international aspect of things. It focuses on what is going on in Spain specifically. So if you get questions about, should I be going to the Camino next week? Find out how you can tell them, no, that's a bad idea. And it's the website, the website design was not my choice, let's put it that way. To find that COVID page, you'll need to go to the entry page to the website and then scroll down a short distance. And there's a block there about, I think it's announcements and news or something. And there's a link to this page in there. So it's a resource for anybody who's even halfway thinking about Spain.
Okay. Well, until recently, we had some of our group who were just waiting for the doors to open, but I think most of us have finally realized it's just not going to happen anytime soon. We just need to relax and wait to see how things happen.
Jean, I have sent people to our webpage, to American Pilgrim's webpage, to look at the COVID information, just to let you know. I have sent them specifically there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, anyway. Okay, folks, this has been terrific. I think some folks have been peeling away. We're coming up on an hour and a half. It's been really terrific. We do have another one of these scheduled next week, and it's not because we wanted to go all the way through it again, but you are welcome to come back. We set 2 dates simply so that if there was someone who could not participate tonight, they would have another opportunity. So we hope at least some of you will be back to help us communicate with any new folks we have. Yes, Martha, are you waving goodbye or are you? And David, and okay, well, we will.
Donna wants to talk.
Can I just ask a quick question? I really like the idea of seeing other chapters' newsletters. How would I do that? Just send you all an email to your chapter email address?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that will work. Would that work?
What I did when I started my situation is I signed up on their Facebook groups. And a lot of the Facebook groups have mailing lists. Like I actually learned from the Albuquerque?
Yes.
Albuquerque. They have their link for their mailing list inside their Facebook page. Ours is on our Facebook page and on our chapter write-up. on American Pilgrims. So, you can reach out to them individually, which I've done, but then sometimes they've automated it. So it makes it pretty easy.
Good. Thank you.
I get Austin, Miami, Southern California, Northern California, Charlotte. I get several of them. Never mind. I'm a nerd.
Thank you.
Okay, we will, again, Martha, are you waving goodbye? Bye. Okay, I'm hoping to capture the Zoom chat, and I'm hoping we will have a list of attendees to share, and we'll either send information directly back by email, or we'll put some information on the chapter Facebook page. Yes, Sharon.
So the chat, if you can get that into a file, can you upload it onto the chapter coordinator's Facebook page?
I will.
Talk to Jean.
Talk to Jean.
That way we can.
Well, I don't know how to get.
Talk to me. I can help you with it. If you get it in a file, I can help you get it. We can upload it, and so that everyone can read it.
Okay, great. We will try to do that. Super. Okay, well, it's been great chatting with everybody.
Thank you.
We're all the way across 4 time zones. This is wonderful. Oh, there's
good to see Don Shaw.
Rosa was here, and we didn't even.
Hey, how you doing, partner?
A lot of folks were here didn't get to speak, but
I welcomed Rosa. I sent her a message.
okay. I'm sorry if we missed anybody.
She's my Facebook buddy.
Oh, good.
Be safe, everybody.
This has been great.
Well, good night, you all.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. This was very
Good night.
useful, helpful.
Okay. Well, I found it helpful. Lots of good ideas. I've tried to write down some. I think Marty was going to help me write down a few ideas. So hopefully we'll capture some of this stuff. And you'll see it back in an email from us and or on the chapter coordinator's Facebook.
Let me ask a question. Do y'all, Martha, the two Marthas, Martha Fry, me, and Martha Hayes from Raleigh, we've both taken notes. Do you guys want us to write them up and send them out to y'all? It's just for y'all, or what? Tell us, or whatever. Do you want some like minutes, or would that be helpful or not helpful?
I think probably most people took notes of what they.
Okay, that's good.
In my opinion, I think that too much for y'all.
Well, I would love to have a consolidated summary, not in detail of who said what, but if we can come up with a list of the key things we learned or key ideas that were shared, I'd like to have that. I'd like to find a way to consolidate.
I don't have who said what, but I did write down the key ideas, and I hope I got all of the attendees. I didn't have all the places they're from, but I got the key attendees, I think. But the main ideas, I think I did capture, hopefully. And between that and Martha, maybe we got it all put together.
Great.
Was helping me get names, and it may be that we just don't know how to use Zoom. Zoom ought to give us a list of names, but I don't know how to get that out of Zoom. We'll see. But if anyone else has notes or key information they're willing to share, send it to, actually you can send it to our email address, which is Chapter Coaches. It's the email, it's the address you got our invite from. So,
okay. Good.
So good night, and I'm gonna go have a beer.
Good job.
Hey, Vince, after everybody signs off, would you hang just a minute? I want to tell you something.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks to everybody. Okay, good night.
Oh, wait a minute. Donna's holding her hand up. Oh, good night.
Just good night. I was trying to
okay, good night. Still trying to sign off. Okay, so after I left the mugs today, I went over to that Park Road Park. We are missing a fabulous
Oh,
resource.
I was supposed to check that out and I forgot to.
Yes, you were, but I went and did it today, and I
Thank
took a
you.
bunch of pictures of some great locations for us to have a coffee or a social or whatever. I'll send those to you. Then after at 4 o'clock, I told you I was going to meet a friend for a beer, and we went up to the most fabulous place that would be great for a social, that we can social distance. It's called Optimist Park. And it's an
Downtown
old,
Charlotte.
yeah, on, I don't remember the name of the street, but I've got the address. But
Davidson.
no, it's off of Davidson, Brevard. It's on Brevard. But at any rate, but it's an old mill that's been turned into this big food court thing. And there's all kinds of green space. There's all kinds of open space. The restaurants that you can sit inside all have outside dining as well as inside dining, but they've got it real spread out. I mean, I didn't take pictures of that, but it is just an ideal location for an event, for an in-person event. But again, I think that one of the things that I picked up on this whole thing, and I think that I picked it up also from Asheville some time ago, any of these events have got to be limited to 10 participants.
So even a social get together for beer, you mean?
We're going to have to, it's what it sounds like to me, that it's got to be, and if not, it's going to have to be like this group of 10 and this group of 10. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me.
Well,
I mean, I don't know how you could have much of an interaction if you had a whole bunch of people and you're all 6 feet apart. If you had 20 people, I mean, that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, but now where did the 10 come from? Is that North Carolina or is that?
Well, I heard Joaquin mentioned it. I know that Asheville's mentioned it. There were several people mentioned it, that it was 10.
I've heard that as well. But I also heard, and part of it's North Carolina, I think outdoor gatherings in North Carolina, I thought they were limited to 25.
Well, I heard that as well at some point, but maybe we need to check on that. But at any rate, there is a limit to the number of people that we can have on these things. But I know that when Asheville was going to do their walk, it was the first 10, period. So I don't really, and I heard Joaquin say that, and somebody else. There's other people. It was mentioned a couple of times. Let's see. Oh, I know who it was.
Aaron might have mentioned it.
I'll tell you who else said it. Gene said it. Anyway, I can't go through all my notes right this minute, but it was mentioned more than one time. So just toss that out. But that wouldn't be bad. I mean, we've got 5 coordinators. If we did something like that, each one of the coordinators could take a group if we got a good response. And we could each, go to, and then if we decided, if we did that, then if we all wanted to kind of play fruit basket turnover, we could all, then we could say, okay, y'all done with this group. Let's go over to this group. This group's going to go over here now. You know what I mean? I mean, something like that. I mean, it sounds stupid, but I mean, these are stupid times, right?
No, that would work. That's definitely a way to approach it. If the limit is 10, you just don't let any little cluster get bigger than 10. And of course, you don't cluster together close. But, even, when we were at the last dinner we had several months ago in at what's her name's house, people break up into different conversation groups anyway. So if we had 30 people, we wouldn't all be trying to talk together at one time. So it seems to me that breaking up into groups no larger than 10 is probably pretty workable.
Oh yeah, I think it's very workable. And the challenge, I think, is how does that work out if you try to if you had set the space up where you had a space for 25 people and then, socially distanced. I think that would be awkward for everybody. Whereas if you set it up and you said, okay, group A is going to be over here, this is 10 over here, and then group B is going to be over here. And then that way, because, if you think about how we were at Davidson, we easily could have had 10 in a group at Davidson, and be able to still talk with each other
Yeah,
pretty easily. But if you had any more than that, I think it'd be hard to do that.
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, just thought I'd toss it in, that park is perfect, and I found some really nice shady areas. They've got several pavilions that you could go under, like that's like our Rotary Club is doing at the pavilions, but they've got several really nice spots, grassy areas, spots, level areas that we could use and just bring our chairs. There's picnic tables that we could sit at if you wanted to, right by the restrooms. They've got restrooms. I mean, it's a really, I had never been in that park either. And it's got a walking trail there if anybody wants to come beforehand. It's got a beautiful walking trail through there. Lovely.
Now this is Optimist Park, right?
No. This is the Park Road park right down from Muggs. No, Optimist Park is the name of that big food venue there on where did I tell you it was? It's off of Davidson.
Off of Davidson and something else, Brevard.
Brevard. It's off of Brevard, yeah. And
okay. I was mixing the two things up. So, yeah, okay. The Park Road Park is big now, but the Optimist Park is where the food court.
Big food. They've got several restaurants, but they've got this huge food court with all these outdoor spaces. I mean, but it's an old mill, so the rooms are just huge, real tall and big windows, and it's real open.
Well, we could try that because at first I was comfortable in Muggs, but as the time went on, it started to feel like a small space, and I began to feel a little uneasy about it.
Right. I agree. Well, today, Jason and I, we went to a brewery first, which is right there. And there was three tables that were taken up. It's huge in size. There was only 3 tables. So we were cool. So then we went over to, it's called El Thrifty. And it's, I don't know, I would say it's kind of a nouveau Mexican, I guess. But at any rate, we were going to sit outside, but we went out there and it was so hot that we came inside because there was nobody in there. So we sat down, and as we sat there, we got there around 5 o'clock, I guess. More and more people came, and so by 6:15, it was like, I said, I'd love to visit a little bit more, but I said, there's getting to be too many people in here. And he felt the same way because we actually sat at a table, for 4, and he sat over here. We sat catty corner so that we could talk. We wore our mask after we ate. So, I mean, he's real picky about it too. So anyway, but I started feeling the same way I did in Muggs. It was just like, too many people coming in here, starting to get a little bit too close, although it's very spread out. But one of the things that I thought was really cool about it is that this might be a great place to have. First of all, I thought, one, we could have our next coordinators meeting there just to see the space. We could go there so we could look at it, because we could end up having our holiday party there.
Oh, okay.
We could, because it's really nice and big, and we could do a holiday event there, because we can't have it in anybody's house with all this mess.
That's right. It's too tight. Yeah.
Right. So, and in the food court, I mean, there's so many options for food. There's sushi, there's Mexican, there's tons of different, but it's an upscale food court. It's not like, at the mall. It's way different. And so you can go and buy your own food and bring it to wherever you're sitting with your group. So it's a pretty cool setup for our situation.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I did not know about that at all. I mean,
I didn't either. I think I'd heard about it, but of course I never went because, I don't go by myself. But anyway, but we might want to consider that for the next coordinators meeting. Would be kind of fun for us to get together and see the space, because I think it would be a nice option for us to think about for the future, and maybe for a holiday get together.
That's a good.
So anyway, but I think that if we want to do an in-person coffee for our Charlotte group, I think that park is absolutely perfect.
So you
And I
can
think we
just
should
bring your
consider it.
coffee or go to Mugs and get it and then
Get
go
it, and then just nip down there. I mean, you could really almost walk down. I mean, you could walk. I mean, it's really close.
Yeah.
But, but there's tons of parking. The parking is just right there. I mean, it is lovely. I'm going to send you the pictures I took.
Okay.
Really lovely.
Well,
But anyway, I just want to toss that in there. And the other thing I was going to say, I was wondering if we ought to revive that survey that we had talked about doing about the in-person event to get the chapter consensus to see if we can get any feedback on what the chapter's thinking. Would they, as a group, would they be interested in it, or is it just a no deal? And is it just going to be,
I don't know. I'm chuckling because we get so little response on any survey. There's no reason not to survey, but I would not expect a lot of response.
Well, I
So
mean,
think
but even no response is response,
okay.
but I
Yeah.
wonder if we should just throw it out there to see if we can't get some feedback. And like I said, if we don't get any response, that's response, just like it was on the patch.
Yeah. But I think I'd be inclined to just go ahead and try some of these things.
Okay.
I mean, we could, like we talked about doing the hike up at Lake Norman instead of a virtual coffee. We could also, maybe we could also have just an outdoor coffee instead of a virtual coffee.
Yeah, I think we should try that.
And so one day we just don't have the outdoor, have the virtual coffee. If you want to have coffee, you show up, and there might be 12 of us, or there might be 11 of us. I don't know what there'll be.
Well,
And
I think we ought to give that a try. And I really would love to be able to have at least one coffee a month that's virtual, so we can still pull in our Chicago and
That's probably a
Milwaukee,
good
and,
idea.
just at least once a month, so we can at least touch base with those guys and Ed and things like that, people that are far off. So,
well, that's a good idea. And if it's virtual once a month or twice a month, then those folks, if they're interested if they know when it is, they'll make a point to join that particular time and know they can't join the other times. Yeah.
okay. Well, so tomorrow I'm dedicating tomorrow to the newsletter. So part of my plan was that I was going to just kind of like write up a little proposal about these in-person things and talk about this, these in-person things that we're talking about now, to get out to the other coordinators and see what kind of feedback we can get from them.
Okay, good.
Okay. Now,
and like you said, if we don't get much feedback, we just go with what
right.
we
Well, if especially and once we get the newsletter put together, if you and I like it and nobody else responds, it's gone.
It's all right.
Yeah. I mean, because it's just silly to keep waiting and waiting and waiting on people.
Absolutely. I think it's nice to invite them. And if they can give us feedback, great. If not, well, that's feedback. We didn't get any answer.
That's right. Okay. That's feedback. That's exactly right.
We just.
That's right. So anyway, so I'm feeling a little bit more positive about trying to, engage people, because it sounds like other people are having similar issues.
And I think we heard some useful ideas. I probably need to go back and think about them again. And I think I have the meeting recorded. We'll see. I don't know if I'm willing to sit down and go through 2 hours of meetings again.
Right.
But it's supposed to be recorded. I had set the recording before, but nothing was being recorded. So I went back in yesterday or this morning and found some more settings, and we did successfully record this morning's meeting, and then I deleted it so it would be good for this one. So
well, mine says it recorded. According to, I didn't even pay attention, but I'm just now looking, and it looks like it recorded the meeting as well. How do you listen to it?
It's been doing that for 8 weeks, but there was no content, because all it was recording was the chat box.
Oh, okay.
So I had to say, well, we want the video and we want the audio.
Oh, okay.
So I think I have got it.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go back and listen to it either, but I think I got the main, I hope I got everybody that came in. And I'll tell you, the hardest part was trying to get everybody that was raising their hand, and I'm still not clear about how we can make that happen a little bit easier.
Well, what you did was extremely helpful because the faces were spread over 2 screens.
Right, they were.
So I could just completely miss them. I kept trying to switch back and forth.
Yeah.
But if I was watching one screen and you were watching another, it was really helpful to have you tell me somebody's been waving and they're not getting seen. So that's
Right.
really helpful.
Well, good. I'm glad that was helpful. I hope it didn't feel like I was butting in, but I know several of them were. That one lady from Delmarva, she had her hand up from the very beginning, and we couldn't get her in.
I was
And
just
then-
sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. But Sharon really was pretty much a hog.
But she's got.
Yeah, I mean, she does. She does.
She's got
But
useful stuff.
she did talk a lot. But I felt bad because I felt like that a lot of the newer people, they had a lot of questions. I sensed that. And like that Delmarva lady, there were several people that I think they wanted to talk more. And I think what I would recommend is that the Gang of Five have a meeting like this with the new people, and maybe another couple from other experienced coordinators from some other chapters. I mean, y'all, the Gang of Five, and then maybe just all of y'all are coordinators, and then, but just to have those new people or the people that are, just around a year, have them in a separate Zoom, not with all the rest of us.
That's probably a good idea. I'm not quite sure how to do that. I mean, right now, it was easy to invite everybody. All I have to do is type in local chapters and it goes to everyone.
Right.
So now we want to go to only the new chapters. So I got to figure out which ones are new and manage their emails, but it can be done, I'm sure.
Well, we could make one of those lists like you did in MailChimp. I've forgotten what you call it, but I couldn't, I was having a hard time. Everything was going really fast at that point, and I couldn't get to who was the, who were new and who was less than a year. I couldn't get all that down.
Well, again, thank you. I appreciate your help, and you were trying to do a lot more than I was really asking. I just wanted to try to get main ideas.
Right.
But there are other ways for us to find out who the new people are. I'm not sure what they are, but somebody at National knows which chapters are new and which coordinators are new. And
right.
I think some of the other people in this Gang of Five have been exchanging information with the National about some of that stuff.
Okay.
And actually, what they've been asking for is not so much who's new, but which chapters are struggling or not active or not responding to surveys or
well, you're gonna see in the chat when you go look through it, several of them have these really small chapters, like 60 and 70 people. And those were definitely, I don't know how long they've been together, but they were definitely making statements about, well, we only have 60 or 70 people. But the one said they only had 70 people, but they have 10 people show up for hikes. We don't even get that.
Right. I was going to respond to that and say we don't often get that. So, and in the beginning we didn't have a lot. I mean, we've got 300 people on our mailing list, but we only get about 120 people open. And
well, maybe once we start doing some activities, especially some hikes, because people are getting stir crazy, we might get a lot more response than we think.
Well, and that might help, but that might just bring back involve the people we already know who are sort of regulars, but maybe haven't been active for the last few weeks, which is worthwhile.
Well, that's worthwhile, yeah. But we might get a few people.
It keeps us going, but I don't know that we're going to get new people until we have a way to reach out, like through REI with an online 101.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, I don't really see the point of the 101 if there's no Camino.
Well, again, it sounded like Sharon was planning to do it this fall. That does seem a little early. But maybe by December or January, things may not be open, but we may be able to see the future a little more clearly. For instance, if there's a good-looking inoculation that starts to become available in December, and you figure, well, a 5-month rollout, they should be open by June. Or there's a pretty good vaccine, and there's also, they start to have these testing things that are quick, like 20 minutes or 10 minutes. So you can see these things that might happen within 6 months and give you the idea that, well, it probably will be open by June. Then, you know, if you can see that by February, maybe there's enough interest to have a Zoom presentation.
Well, I think February makes sense, but I think in the interim, that would be a good project to be working on, is to get that thing ready to go. I mean, is it ready, or can you just migrate the one we have right into Zoom?
Well, yes and no. I think we would want to decide what we think is the best way to do it. But the answer is yes, you can, and I haven't done it, but I'm pretty sure you can do this thing called share screen. So we call up the slideshow and we share the screen, and one of us is speaking, and we have all these Zoom participants, but we bring the slides up and talk about them one by one. So,
well, I think that when we do a new one in February, and this is probably a good project for Mike and John, and maybe Linda, certainly not me, is that 101 needs to be updated, because there's got to have some COVID stuff in there.
I guess that's right, yeah.
You know, how things are changing on the Camino. So I think that maybe that would be a good project for them to, I mean, they're already working on that one thing. And so maybe they could be doing that at the same time. I don't know, just a thought. Okay, you're getting sleepy, and so am I. It's been a very long day.
Yeah, I've got to go get my COVID test in the morning about 9 o'clock, so I don't have to get up early.
I got mine today. They did it at both noses.
Oh.
And then they told me what you had told me already, but I didn't know it until after I had. They said, well, now you need to self-isolate till next week. Well, that wasn't going to happen, because I'd already planned to go over to see my granddaughter, which I wasn't going to cancel that because I already planned it. And then I had already made plans to go see my friend Jason. So it's like, oh, well, I hope I didn't catch you.
Why did they want you to isolate? I thought you got the test just because you wanted to know.
No, I got the test because I'm having a procedure next Thursday.
Oh, well, I'm the same. And yeah, I didn't remember it, but I got out my package of information today, and they gave me this 2 weeks ago. They said, yeah, after you take the test, we want you to isolate.
Well, I didn't get that in my packet.
But it seems to me, now Thursday is a week away, but in my case, I'm having the test on Friday and the procedure on Wednesday. So that's almost short enough that if you contracted an infection in the interim, you should not become contagious. Isn't that about right?
It's so variable, you know, I mean, I've heard so many different things. Well, there's not anything I can do about it. So, because I've already done it, and I wasn't going to change my plans because I was so desperate. I haven't seen my granddaughter or my son or any of my family, my grandson, for a month. And I hadn't seen my friend Jason since, I don't know, probably the first part of the year. And he hasn't even left his house since March.
Well, I hope you didn't infect him.
No. We did like this.
Okay.
Like, everybody we're careful.
Yeah,
So,
well, Malin's in Atlanta this weekend, but that was just for a couple of days. They needed some help, but I'm hoping to get a trip scheduled to go back and see my grandkids in Atlanta.
I know. I'll tell you, my grandson leaves next Wednesday. He's going back to Wyoming for his go back to school. And my son and his and my daughter-in-law are driving him out there because they're going out he's taken my granddaughter's car because she can't have a car at school the first year. So James is taking her car and they're going to fly back.
Ah,
Yeah. So any rate, so he's going to be gone and he won't be back until his semester's over, which is at Thanksgiving. So,
right.
and then my granddaughter leaves. She has to be at William and Mary on the 12th. So
Thanks. Well,
the
I hope
12th of
it works
August.
for them. So they're going to be on campus, it sounds like, in class.
Yeah, the freshmen and the seniors at William and Mary. That's all
Okay.
that's going to be on campus. Okay, kiddo. All right. Well, I'll be working on that stuff tomorrow and I'll send it to you. Okay.
Okay. And if you can, whatever time you can make to sort of get your notes on paper a little bit.
Okay.
And if you could, let me see them. And if I can either add to them or get some information from Susan or somebody, I'd sort of like to consolidate things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
but
No, they're just for you. I mean, you once you get them, you can do whatever you want to do with them.
I mean, you asked the group if they wanted you to distribute them, and I'd sort of like to see them first. But
Oh no, definitely. But Martha's got them too.
right,
For
I'll see
Raleigh,
if
she
you
made
can
notes
share.
too.
So it may be that consolidating them is just more effort than I can undertake, and I'll just say send them the way they are. But anyway,
No.
I'd like a chance to.
No, I'll send you mine. I'm not sending anything out without you looking at it.
Well, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you for again. Thank you for help. It was
Okay.
really helpful to have you flagging.
Gotta have a spotter. Gotta have a spotter.
Oh, that's right. And again, I didn't mean for you to keep track of the attendance. Rachel Gonzon was going to do that.
Oh, good. Well, good. Because I
Good.
may not have got everybody.
She was part of our team of 5, and again, I hate to ask anybody to do something because, well, we're all volunteers, so you get to do what you want, and you don't have to be. Nobody gets to tell you what to do. But for this event, Rachel, we have 5 of us, and we agreed that when there's a question from a chapter that the National wants us to deal with, they will forward that to our group. But instead of sending it to all 5 of us, it will go to Rachel first and David Cook second, I think. So they're sort of the correspondence gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
So when these responses started coming in, Rachel jumped just right on it and she was responding. You got a response from her, and she also made a spreadsheet and a list. Although the list was about 23 people this afternoon, and I think we had 41 at one time.
40. We had, well, before Rosa signed in, we had 42 listed, but after once Rosa signed in, I never looked again. But it was nice to see her. I was sorry we weren't able to acknowledge her. I did send her a note and welcomed her when I saw
Good.
that she had signed in.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
All
good
right.
night.
Ciao.
Thanks. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So let's see. I'm going to